What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. And today we are going over a lot. John Daniels said we will be spending in free agency, and this is a great free agency class to be spending. There's both pitchers, shortstops, almost all-stars at any position that you'd want to go after. So I think the Rangers view that they're almost out of the rebuilding phase, which is good because the prospects have been playing pretty well. And obviously the Rangers want to dive into this free agency class because we do have this new stadium and the Rangers want to fill this new stadium. And so obviously the hot topic is the shortstops in this free agency class. And I think there's 5 shortstops, in my opinion, that the Rangers should go after. They've all been all-stars in the past. Some are coming off of hotter seasons than others. So let's take that into account. Starting off, we have Javier Baez, obviously a longtime Cub, 2-time All-Star, a Gold Glover, a Silver Slugger, the NLCS MVP, and the 2016 World Series winner. He had a productive year this year with a 4.5 WAR. His on-base has always been pretty bad. This year's at 300. I'm saying this wrong, but .319. But his OPS was 813. But his OPS plus was 117. But I really don't think that Javier Bias is the move for the Rangers. He would be a nice, energetic, flashy player. He would definitely sell jerseys. That's one aspect that we have to view. Obviously, we want the Rangers to win games, but there's another aspect to it, and that's the business aspect. Can these guys sell jerseys? With Trevor Story, another great shortstop in this class, would he be a guy that would be able to be marketable? Yeah, I know he's from Texas, but would he be able to sell jerseys? So Javier Baez, I think he has too much swing and miss in his game, and he's already 28 years old. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I want the Rangers to pass on him. As we move on, the more likely I want the Rangers to sign these guys. So the next guy on this list is Marcus Simeon. And this guy probably had the most productive year out of any of the shortstops, maybe second to Carlos Correa. But for only signing a 1-year deal with the Blue Jays, after having a solid season in 2019, he almost could have won the MVP. And then he didn't have a great 2020. I'm pretty sure it was derailed a little bit by injuries. But he had a 7.1 WAR here in 2021. 45 bombs for Marcus Simeon. And I don't know if he's a pure shortstop. He wasn't really playing shortstop for Toronto because they obviously have Bo Bichette and Bo Flo down in Toronto. So he was probably playing a little second base. And he is the oldest one on this list. He's already 31 years old. So would he even really be a shortstop for the Rangers? We already do have Isaiah Kleiner-Falefa, as we all know, a really good player with the glove. However, if you think about this, he is old. Can he really play shortstop anymore? Could you get him cheap if you go shorter? Maybe. If you play him at second base, maybe if you leverage that. So he had a 334 on base, an 873 OPS, and a 133 OPS plus. Really solid numbers for Marcus Simeon. He would definitely upgrade the Rangers roster. So if it's a short-term deal for Simeon, I would be on board. I don't know if he'd be the shortstop. If we put him in at second base on a short-term deal, I'm on board. Going down to the third elite shortstop on this list, none other than Cory Seeger. This guy is in the playoffs right now. He's two of these guys are in the playoffs, Corey Seeger and Carlos Correa. Marcus Simeon almost made the playoffs, but it's too close, no cigar. Kind of how the saying goes. But Corey Seeger, only 27. I'm pretty sure he's the second youngest guy on this list. Carlos Correa is the youngest. But Corey Seeger is a Rookie of the Year, a two-time All-Star. He obviously won the World Series last year, a two-time Silver Slugger, a World Series MVP, and the NLCS MVP winner. He's been a great player his entire career. A few things do worry me, but I'll list off his stats this year. 3.7 WAR, 306 batting average, 394 on base. So he's getting on base almost 40% of the time. 915 OPS, 145 OPS plus. I mean, he's been a slugger his entire career. The things that worry me is he's not terrible at defense, but he's not as sure-handed as, say, a Trevor Story, a Carlos Correa, or Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, okay? And obviously, I think all of these guys are going to demand long-term contracts besides Marcus Simeon. And when it comes to Corey Seager, I think long-term, he'll profile more as a third baseman. So if we're taking that into account, would we rather just sign a third baseman right now, probably for cheaper, or a slugging outfielder for cheaper, like a Nick Castellanos? Because we have to value the shortstop position because it takes a toll on you. And if you're able to play that at a high level, that's great for the organization and whatnot. And if you're being able to hit at a high level, that's what separates you. So I wouldn't be mad if we signed Corey Seager. I think he's a great player. But I also forgot to mention the injuries have been a problem. The reason why he only has a 3.7 WAR is because he's been injured this year, and he was injured last year as well. So that's a problem for me, especially if we're going to be giving out big money. So I think for the guys that we give out big money to, I want them to be durable, and I want them to be able to stay and play at their position, kind of like Adrian Beltre did. He stayed at third base all the way till he retired. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad if we signed Corey Seager, but not my top option. So the next guy on this list, definitely a fan favorite, and I would not be mad if we signed him. The native Irving High School native Trevor Story, two-time All-Star, two-time Silver Slugger, and I remember when he was a rookie, he jumped onto the scene, hit home run after home run after home run. But he's not just a slugger. He hits home runs, he plays defense, he steals bases, and he had a down year this year, okay? But he still had a 4.2 WAR, 329 on base, 801 OPS. So he still had an OPS in the 800s and then an OPS plus at 103. And if you guys don't know, I should have said this earlier, but OPS plus an average for that is MLB average is 100, so slightly above average. So what that means, he wasn't getting it done too much with his bat. Obviously, you have the Coors Field effect, but he was still getting it done with the defense and the offense. But he's proven to get it done before on the road. So I feel like he could benefit from moving to a new organization, especially with a great facility down in Texas. And Texas is trying to change the narrative on their franchise to a winning franchise. And a lot of times that rejuvenates a player. And I really thought that Trevor Story was going to get traded and he's going to turn his season around. So I think Trevor Story would be a good pickup. And maybe he's a little cheaper than the last guy on my list, and Carlos Correa. Maybe you get a buy low opportunity. He's not going to be like super cheap. He's still going to want money, okay? But maybe a little bit cheaper, and we can spend some money on a bullpen player or a corner outfielder or something like that, or or starting pitcher, because there's some good starting pitchers in this market. And a note, if you invest in sports cards, my hypothesis is that Trevor Story cards, they're down right now. I think they'll go up. Last guy on this shortstop list is Carlos Correa. I had another hypothesis of mine is that he could be the best, going way back, he could be the best shortstop in this class. That was before, although Francisco Lindor was here, I still think he would be the best shortstop. Obviously, he's had a down year. He did pick it up towards the end of the year. But my reasoning for Carlos Correa being the best shortstop is that he's always gotten it done on offense and defense. He's been on winning teams, and he's the youngest guy. So if you give him that long-term deal, he should be able to play that position longer than these other guys, okay? And the reason why I didn't think Carlos Correa would be too hot on this channel is obviously he was with the Astros, and they had that cheating scandal. But then you had a guy like Trevor Story, who's a native Texan. But I think we need to change the narrative. If we can get a great player like Carlos Correa, we should go ahead and do it. He's Rookie of the Year, 2-time All-Star. He's won a World Series. Obviously, they cheated to get that World Series. But there's something about playing in the playoffs. It's something that Carlos Correa could bring to the Texas Rangers. He had a 7.2 WAR this year, 366 on base, 850 OPS, and a 131 OPS plus. So, yes, they cheated, but I just think that he can bring something spectacular to the Rangers franchise. And even if the Rangers were to sign any of these guys, it should rejuvenate the lineup, bring something special to the team. But I think there's something different with the Carlos Correa, Marcus Simeon, and Cory Seeger. Javier Baez, not so much. And then Trevor Story, because Marcus Simeon, he's a veteran. He has a proven track record. Cory Seeger's also been in the playoffs. They've won a World Series, and he's produced. And same with Carlos Correa. He's been in the playoffs. He's won a World Series. So they have that veteran experience and that playoff experience. But the thing about Carlos Correa, he's younger, and he's coming off a really great year this year. So I think it would be hard to pass on Carlos Correa if the Rangers had the chance. But if we could get a buy low on Marcus Simeon and move him to second base, or maybe a buy low on Trevor Story, look out for those as well.